Cinderella. Once upon a time, there was a young girl whose mother died while she was a little child, leaving her to the care of her father and her stepsisters. Unfortunately, her stepsisters were very unkind to her. As she grew older, they made her work as a servant and even sifting the cinders, on which account they used to call her in mockery Cinderella. Cinderella was not her real name, but she became so well known by it that her real name has since been forgotten. Cinderella was a very sweet-tempered and kind little girl, and everybody, except her cruel stepsisters, loved her very much. When Cinderella was about 20 years old, the king gave a ball, to which all the ladies of the land, and among them Cinderella's stepsisters, were invited. The stepsisters made Cinderella dress them for the ball, but they never thought about allowing her to go there. "I wish you would please take me to the ball with you," said Cinderella.
"Take you?"
said one of the stepsisters with a sneer.
"The palace is no place for a cinder sifter. Stay at home and clean the house."
After the stepsisters left for the ball, Cinderella became very sad and started to cry. Then a voice called to her from the garden, and she went out to see who was there. It was her godmother, who was a good old fairy. "Do not cry, my poor child," said the fairy godmother. "You will also get to go to the ball, because you are a kind and good girl. But first of all, please bring me a large pumpkin." So Cinderella brought a pumpkin from the garden, and the fairy, touching it with her wand, turned it into a grand coach. The fairy then turned 2 mice into footmen, and 4 grasshoppers into white horses. Next, the fairy touched Cinderella's dirty clothes, and they became a beautiful ball dress. Cinderella's old shoes were turned into a charming pair of glass slippers, which shone like diamonds. "Now go to the ball, my love, and enjoy yourself," said the fairy godmother. "But remember, you must leave the ballroom before the clock strikes midnight. If you do not, then your beautiful dress will return to its original rags." Cinderella kissed and thanked her godmother, and then she got into her coach and drove off. Cinderella was received at the king's palace with great respect. The Lord Chamberlain bowed low to her, thinking that she must be a very great princess based on how she dressed. At the ball, Cinderella was so beautiful that everybody looked at her and wondered who she was, and the prince asked her to dance with him, and afterwards he would dance with no one else. Cinderella kept track of the time and left well before midnight, and even had time to change her clothes before her stepsisters came home. They told her about a beautiful and mysterious princess who had been at the ball, with whom the prince was delighted. The stepsisters did not know that the mysterious princess was in fact Cinderella. The prince wanted to meet Cinderella again, so he persuaded the king to give another grand ball. And because Cinderella was so punctual last time, her godmother agreed to let her go this time as well. So once more, the rat, the mice, the grasshoppers, and the pumpkin, which had gone back to their original shapes after the first ball, were turned into the grand coach and attendants. And Cinderella, this time wearing a rose-colored dress, went to the ball. As soon as the prince saw Cinderella, he asked her to dance again and would have no other dance partner. And as he led her past her 2 stepsisters, she saw them look at her dress with envious eyes, and knew that they wished that they were as beautiful and as well dressed as Cinderella was. At the second ball, Cinderella was so occupied with talking to the prince that she lost track of time. And when she finally looked at the clock, she saw that it was nearly midnight. At once, she darted out of the ballroom and ran through the palace as fast as she could. But as she reached the door, she lost one of her precious glass slippers. She did not even have time to pick it up and rushed out of the door. Then the clock had struck midnight, and everything turned back to their original shapes, except for the glass slippers. The prince was very sad that Cinderella suddenly left the ball again. He asked all the attendants, but no one had seen her or even knew her name. However, the prince did find the glass slipper, which he very well knew belonged to the mysterious princess. So the prince was determined to find the owner of the glass slipper. The next day, it was announced that the prince would marry the lady whose foot the glass slipper fitted exactly. All the great ladies of the land, including Cinderella's two stepsisters, visited the royal palace and tried on the glass slipper, but it did not fit anyone. At last, Cinderella said,
"Can you please let me try on the glass slipper? Perhaps it will fit me."
Her stepsisters laughed at this ridiculous suggestion, but they decided to let her try on the slipper just to embarrass her. So Cinderella, accompanied by her stepsisters, went to the royal palace. Cinderella arrived at the palace in a cleaner's outfit and started wearing the slipper. To everyone's surprise, the slipper fitted Cinderella perfectly. And then Cinderella slowly took the other glass slipper out of her pocket, and everyone in the palace was gasping. The prince, who had thought the moment he saw Cinderella that she looked very much like the mysterious princess, was obviously very delighted. He insisted on Cinderella telling him her story, which she did, and everyone listened with wonder. After Cinderella finished telling the story, her fairy godmother entered the room, and placing her godchild's hand in the prince's, she said, "My dear prince, please take this young lady for your wife. She is kind and patient, and she will know how to reign justly." A short time after that, Cinderella and the prince married, and they lived happily ever after.